Here's a simple mnemonic device for you to remember in case you're about to put your money or your blood into anything. Vlads are bad. This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Cannata.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens. You know, Jeff, the AI revolution is it here? It's coming. It's on its way. It was 5 minutes ago. Depending on what I read, it's different. But what I know is AI is a thing.
It's taking our jobs. I know that.
I know that it's certainly taking our jobs.
Podcasting, and like next week, it's starting a podcast. Some AI, tried to get our URL, our domain name from us so it could podcast in our stead. That's my understanding.
And here's what I said to the AI. I said, listen, do it. Give us $20.
This is why you're the bad at being the money guy.
No, but listen, the AI says it's Anthony Carboni and Jeff Cannata.
Yeah.
And then we don't do the podcast anymore, but the podcast still comes out and we get $20.
I don't think that's going to last as long as you think it's going to last.
Excuse me, Jeff. I have 80% of my money in GameStop and Dogecoin. So who's the savvy investor out of the two of us?
Touche.
Answer that question.
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
I bought at 368.
Yeah.
And that thing is going nowhere but up.
Baby, to the moon. We going to the moon, boys. Get on the rocket ship. I do have a couple shares of GameStop. It's fine.
How much Doge do you got? That Doge
I don't have
coin.
any Doge. I don't have any Doge. That's ridiculous.
That's the next big thing, baby. Doge.
No, it's not. And I'm not. This is not a crypto thing, and I am not a crypto guy, and I will not publicly become a crypto guy on this podcast. I will not explain Doge here. Anybody who explains cryptocurrency in public is a garbage person. I picture them wearing the shoes with the toes.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure. Yeah, Doge toes they call them.
I picture them wearing the shoes with the toes, and they have very expensive vape rigs that they built themselves. I'm not that person, but don't invest in Doge. Here's what you should know. AI. It's happening. It's coming. We're talking about, a lot of time we're talking about machine learning most of the time.
Look to your left, look to your right. One of those things you looked at was AI, probably.
Yeah. Probably. And the way you can tell is it looks like a person, but when you squint at it, it's like paisley and covered in weird dogs.
Yeah.
That's how you can tell.
That's how you can always tell.
If you look real close, it's unsettling. So the way that we normally get AI or machine learning, the way this normally works is an AI is trained, right?
Right.
And so the way the AI is trained, like when you think about
play a billion games of Go, right?
Yeah, play a billion games of Go, and you will learn Go as it happens, right? And you will get better. Or you're gonna like deep fakes. I'm gonna give you 20,000 pictures of this guy's face, 20,000 pictures of this guy's face. Can you turn these pictures into this set of features, right?
Right.
And and the longer you train an AI, the better it gets at it. Now,
more disconcerting it appears.
Yeah, the more disconcerting it appears until you come out the other side, and all of a sudden Bill Hader is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you don't like it, but it happened, and it was kind of seamless.
Yeah.
You know? Now, here's the thing about that. Computationally, that's very expensive, right? If you think about it.
It takes time. It takes muscle to play a billion games of Go.
Yeah, or if you're doing a deep fake, you've got high-end video cards working for sometimes 10 to 15 days, just training over and over, and you're running these giant computers. It's very expensive, right? Now, so is standard computing. Okay, so let's say you and I are going to, we're looking for a restaurant to eat at, and we Google the hours for, well, let's face it, if it's you and me, we're not going to a restaurant, we're going to a donut place. And we Google, we're eating donuts for dinner, and we Google like when Donut Friend closes.
Okay, God, now I want donuts for dinner.
I always want donuts for dinner. That seems like a very easy action, right?
Yes.
But it's not an energy-free computation. There is a substantial carbon footprint to this, right? Because Google is not an AI, but Google is algorithmic, right? So Google is looking at what you put in, and it's trying to figure out, based on its algorithm, what you want to see. So it returns a whole page of things that it keeps in a database, right? Mm-hmm. All of these things cost a lot computationally as well. You've got to store the database. You've got to send the data back and forth. Google has to constantly tweak its algorithm, right? And that's done by a human being. That's not done by the machine itself. All of this stuff is expensive. What if I told you, Jeff, that we have made a large step towards something that is going to not just revolutionize AI, but revolutionize standard computing by making it a lot less resource intensive? We have made a quantum brain.
A quantum brain?
Yes, Jeff.
So let me try to unpack that phrase. You're saying that there's a computer, a CPU. We have quantum computing already. And the idea there being that we could do multiple actions, multiple computations simultaneously without any additional energy output. Is that what we're talking about?
Sort of. Yeah, sort of. So this is a paper that was just published in Nature Nanotechnology. The Sunday insert of one of our favorite journals, Nature.
I gotta re-up my subscription, man. I let that lapse, and I'm missing all the juicy stuff.
So basically, what is good about this is it is neuromorphic computing. So instead of a computer that looks the way that we expect it to, with the processor on the motherboard and all this stuff, the memory is on a sim, whatever you picture. This is a computer that is designed to mimic biological structures of the brain.
All right, we're making brain computers.
We are making brain computers, baby.
Finally. Okay, so in what way? Now, knowing what I know about how much we know about how the brain works, which is very little.
Very little.
How are we doing this exactly?
Well, we have learned a lot about the structure of the human brain in the last decade. Obviously, there are two giant brain mapping projects that have been running for the last decade we've been learning more and more and more and more. And we know enough to know the simple structures, right? So our brains use signals sent from neurons, these brain cells that we call neurons, and it transfers the information that the neurons receive into action. And so basically what happens is they put, these researchers put cobalt atoms.
Okay.
Atoms of cobalt onto a superconducting surface made from black phosphorus, which is dope as hell.
And then they struck it with lightning on a dark and stormy night, laughing maniacally.
Right. And then Thor comes in with his hammer and gives it the last bit of lightning that it needs. And Joss Whedon really wanted you to see its penis, but you can't see its penis. Okay. It was a bad idea. Joss Whedon, that was a weird idea. Basically, the atoms have something that's called spin states. Okay. Spin states are basically our atoms. They do the same thing. They spin around. Atoms spin around, and based on their spin states, they are zeros or ones. Okay. So instead of storing information on this quantum computer, instead of there being some sort of database, instead of there being 10,000 images of a face, these atoms are just spinning. They're spinning. They're spinning as they're taking in information, and they're remembering the things that they take in. Okay.
So basically, because they can be either zeros and ones, it replicates a binary computer language. Is that what you're saying? So
if you think about our brain as a series of electrical switches, synapses, right? Because now we have learned enough about the brain to understand sort of the physical things, the actual physics of what's going on. If we we don't understand all the reasons, we understand the physical properties. And that's what kind of makes making quantum brains or quantum or AI kind of interesting to me, is like, we're replicating the physical structure of the brain as much as we can without knowing exactly why the brain is doing what it does.
Right.
So we're sort of learning as we go. We're like, oh,
by
the brain,
making.
the brain should do this because that's what brain do when we think this way. Well, why do brain do that? We don't know, but if we make computer do that, computer have brain.
Yeah, it's like me learning how to play Stairway to Heaven without knowing how to play the guitar.
Yeah.
Right? I can kind of make my hand do Stairway to Heaven. I couldn't play anything else. I can't play the guitar, but I can play. I don't know how the guitar works. I don't know what the scales are. I don't know why guitar do. But here's the thing, look,
Jeff.
Stairway to Heaven recreated with my hands.
You do enough of those, right? You do enough of those YouTube videos that just show you hand placement.
Yeah.
And you do start learning about guitar. A lot of people start learning that way. And when you think about it, learn by doing. That's exactly how the brain works. So what's kind of fascinating about this is they basically wanted to embed information inside of these spin states and simulate neurons firing and simulate these synaptic connections. So instead of... So what they're doing is they're making this cobalt on this black phosphorus do what neurons do to the best of their ability. And what they were seeing is, as they stimulated the material over a longer period of time with a certain voltage, the synapses actually changed.
What does that mean?
The material adapted its reaction based on the external stimuli it received. So basically what they were doing, it's learning.
Well, that's crazy.
It's learning and growing synaptic connections.
Nothing can go wrong from this point forward.
Baby, nothing can go wrong. We're making brains, baby.
So I don't understand how this is a quantum feature. It seems like those cobalt atoms can only be in two states, right?
Remember, quantum basically, quantum is a designation of a size and type of thing, right? We're using atoms here, so it's quantum, right?
Okay.
We've been taught to think about quantum. It's like the quantum realm. Ant-Man go real tiny.
Yeah.
He goes subatomic. He quantum. Right?
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So since we're using that scale, it's by definition a quantum. But it's not. So how
quantum,
is this?
It's not quantum the way we've been trained to respond to the term quantum in computing, right? Quantum in computing, like, we love quantum computing articles because they're all about, we took an atom 3 days ago and we spun it and 17 weeks later a guy on the street gave me $1 and said the atom told me to be here. Right?
Exactly.
Like, that's the shit that we're seeing. And we're all kind of like, what does this computer do? So we tend to think about quantum in terms of like really weird high level Stephen Hawking you know what I mean?
I think about it as things being in multiple states at the same time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And existing outside of time in some sort of way. But this is just like, hey, look at these little baby things. Look at these little baby things. And the way this works is it's called a Boltzmann brain, the type of thing they're making, or a Boltzmann machine, which is a thing that's been around for a while. So what it does is a Boltzmann machine is a stochastic recurrent neural network. So what stochastic means is we don't control the output. We don't know what it's going to do. There's a little bit of randomness in there. We know that we can tell the computer, we can tell the atoms go up, go down, go 0, go 1, right?
Yeah.
But we don't know exactly when they're going to do that. There's a certain amount of fuzzy randomness to it that is sort of needed, theoretically, to make things learn. It needs to draw its own conclusions. It needs to do its own random things.
Okay.
Now, you might be asking, Jeff, What can we do with this computer right now?
What can we do with this computer right now?
What are we going to do with this brain right now?
Yeah.
Fucking nothing. This don't do shit. This don't do shit yet.
All right. Well, I'm glad we put a lot of work into it at least.
Yeah. Because here's what's up. We got to make it respond like a brain. We got to make it grow like a brain. And then when it does, we can start training the brain in more and more complex ways.
Have we tried taunting it?
For. We have tried poking the brain.
Yeah.
We've tried, and we have noticed that the brain sort of registers, I don't know, it's what we call an angry state. And you're thinking about things like super states, you know?
Yeah.
Like a quantum super state. What I'm telling you is there is an angry state. The atoms spin to 0 to 1 to angry.
Well, let's make it more angry and maybe it'll learn to hate us.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, that is the style of training and parenting that my father went with, and I did learn a lot.
Yeah,
so
there you go. See?
So it does work. And
Nothing wrong with your brain?
No, I'm very healthy, and what is that supposed to mean? And shut up and don't look at me anymore.
So you started this whole conversation saying that this could be an answer to energy problems or
yes.
Efficiency problems.
Yes.
How does this computer manifest a more efficient form of computation?
Number one, so tiny.
Real small.
So tiny, real small. Takes very little electricity to run at all.
Okay. Cool.
Sort of like our brains. Our brains don't take a ton of electricity to run.
Right.
So we are creating these tiny, dense, computerized brains that also don't need to store static information, right? You don't need to add more and more drives. You don't need to add a bigger and bigger database file to these things. They just learn, right?
Like our brains do.
Like
you
our
don't
brains.
add capacity to our brain. You can just keep learning stuff every day of your life, and it doesn't. There's no running out of space.
There's no running out of space. And then the third thing is the final ability to learn and understand, right? Like Google is still bringing me 300 pages of results for everything I search.
Right.
Because there is a certain level, there is a little bit of a level of uncertainty within Google, right? And some of it is that we want to see variety. If I'm looking up the definition of a thing, I'd like to see 10 different ways that it's defined or 10 different opinions on it. But
yeah,
it's also very unsure as to what we want. It can only give us what we want in terms of popularity, algorithmically, popularity, and what seems to match the phrase. Whereas this, and it has to search and compare in order to do that. Whereas an AI, a quantum brain, when we say, what time does Donut Friend close? It's like, oh, I know Donut Friend. Yeah. Donut Friend closes at 8.
Right. Yeah. I get it.
It doesn't...
Context. And because it's able to learn and adapt. So and that's inherent in the structure of how this works. That's the part I'm having a hard time understanding is like the structure.
Buddy, isn't it weird?
Yeah, I don't understand why that should be, right? If it's just molecules in different states, like why would that be any different than anything else in two different states?
Why does our brain work how it works? We don't know. Entirely know yet, but we can. But here's what we can say: our synaptic connections are malleable. They strengthen, weaken, grow, shrink, add, and subtract based on the information that we take in. Things become stronger, and we know how to think, and we know what people... When you ask me a question, I know how to answer it with all of the information that I have at my fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I know that just because I've been thinking my whole life.
Right.
And when you ask me something, it hits all of the right, best, slidiest, goopiest connections, because they are slidey and goopy, and I love that. Mm-hmm. They are slidey, goopy, and it just goes directly to the place it needs to go. Because you give me the stimulus, my brain takes that stimulus and gives the result. How will it know? Now, here's the other thing. like I said, this brain's going to have to get smarter. That's the other thing. But it should get smarter much faster than your standard sort of step and repeat model that we use right now, this sort of iterative model, because it's going to be able to pull on a bunch of different connections. Right now, if I show you my face and like Mark Hamill's face, I just watched a Corridor Crew video where they did the Mandalorian shot, but they did it their own way.
Yeah.
So if I show you my face and Mark Hamill's face, and I go like this, and I'm like, draw me a picture of Mark Hamill doing the thing that I did. You know so much about faces, and you know so much about expressions, and you know so much about what different objects are, that's easy for you.
Yeah.
Because you can draw multiple connections.
Right.
Right now, computer only do one thing.
Yeah.
Computer compare images over and over until computer understand.
Yeah.
You know?
I get it. So you're drawing on the sum total of your experience because it's all still stored in your brain, and you're able to make comparisons between moments before in your life when you did that. Computer, we haven't figured out a way to make computer do that. Computer just goes, I'm going to brute force this by doing it a billion times until I get to the result that we all want. Yeah.
But if the computer could just think a little bit about other things that it's learned before, or that it's been asked before, and draw that connection that we draw, those abstract connections, it would be 100 times faster at what it does.
This is how we get to all those big questions of what's the difference between computer doing that and computer being a person.
Yeah.
This is how we get to those questions.
Do we show the computer penis, or do we not show the computer penis? Paul Bettany says, I don't think we need to show the computer penis.
Usually, in my experience, computer shows me penis.
That's one thing it's good at. In all honesty,
one thing it knows how to do. But yeah, I mean, the place we get to is, okay, if it's laterally thinking, if it's using its life experience to make new connections between two disparate thoughts, now it's person. Well, right? What's the difference between that and personhood?
Soul.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you forgot a little something called a soul, Jeff.
Right.
Maybe you forgot our spirit, which become ghost, Jeff.
This is why computer can't podcast, right? Because it's all about soul. Yeah. We put our soul into this motherfucker.
Let me tell you something. There's one thing I think about when I think about podcasts. It's how soulful most of them are.
Exactly.
We are kind of a long way out from this thing happening, but we are at this kind of interesting prototype stage, right? They've got this brain. It's responding to the electrical impulses. It's reacting. It's creating synaptic connections. The next thing is they really want to build a full-scale computer out of this thing.
Sure, they do.
That's the next step.
With a face and a penis.
Yeah,
all
probably
of the whole thing. The whole thing.
What do computer need? Cape, gem on head.
Yes,
penis.
gem on head.
Penis.
Penis.
I'm excited for this.
Yeah, dude. This is terrifying, but thrilling. I mean, this is like next level. Make a computer behave in ways that are unpredictable, and we've seen that a bit with this other style of AI where the scientists and the programmers and the designers of these things go, it's playing Go in ways we didn't teach it, we didn't foresee. No human has ever played Go that way. It's coming up with its own things, but to do that because it iterated itself into an effective strategy versus, it just learned to think outside the box.
Yeah.
I mean, wild, right?
It's so rad. And there was this novella I read it was written in 1994 by this guy, Roger Williams. It's called The Metamorphosis of the Prime Intellect. And it was available online for years for free. I think he finally started self-publishing it in 2002. But it was written, he's a programmer, and it was written from his point of view about what happens when we finally achieve this sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And it was actually like it was a very sort of positive take on it, which, normally it's like, oh, here comes the AI where either we are going to treat the robots terribly or the robots are going to treat us terribly.
Yeah, here it comes, Skynet.
But I love the metamorphosis of the prime intellect because it was literally like, nah, we made the computer and the computer's like, thanks for making me. And it turns out keeping us happy is such a small portion of what the computer is capable of it can keep us happy with like 0.0000 something percent of its cycles.
Yeah, and so what's it doing with the other percentage?
It doesn't matter because we're happy and we're thriving as a civilization and we're doing everything we want.
But if it has if it's got another agenda, what's on that agenda?
See,
what does it want?
You got to read this book.
I guess I gotta. But you know what we're talking about? It dawns on me what we're actually talking about is creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to, even as I was saying it, like, what's the difference between learning something and just doing something over and over and over until you come to a better strategy? These two methodologies, and the difference is creativity.
Absolutely.
Right? The difference is making a leap that you didn't iterate yourself into. It's making a creative leap into a place that you have to imagine rather than practice your way into.
When does the computer stop emulating pop songs, and when does it start writing original things and starting trends in pop songs?
And that's the difference. You can simulate creativity, right? You can make an amalgamation of creativity, a simulacrum of creativity by just pulling bits that human beings have decided are aesthetically pleasing and plugging them together. That's how AI is doing it right now. That's when you plug in, 1,000 novels and it writes its own novel. That's what we're doing right now, right? It's just comparatively like creating things based on observation of what is aesthetically pleasing. But if it's actually making a creative leap and not just plug and play, not just iterating into that position, then I do think we have soul. I think that's what soul is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And once you get to that point, it's funny the way you explained it. I thought
gods. Then we're gods, Anthony.
Then we're gods.
That's the point at which we are gods. We've created souls.
We've done it. We've done it. GameStop to the moon. We've done it. This is like when you described that just now, it's funny because I'm thinking about it in terms of you were like, oh, when they can put the pieces together stylistically, but then when they start to really do their own thing. And literally all I was thinking of is like a college creative writing student and then they become a novelist because they learn over time what their own voice is. And by that definition, AI is almost already creative. I think it is creative.
Interesting.
I think so many of us, like if I was to sit down and try to write a song right now, I would just take what I know works in other songs and I would put it together. It would take me a while to really be able to add my own flair to things.
Right.
In that way, like when we put in the first 4 bars of All Star into a thing and there's that program that tries to finish the song. Yeah. And it does it with like random stuff. I mean, sometimes the song that it puts together fucking slaps. Like it's not it's not All Star. Like you're thinking, haha, that computer couldn't write All Star. No, but it wrote a song, motherfucker, and it slaps. Yeah. And so it becomes I think it becomes like a self-awareness and a self-reflection, right? Like when is the computer putting its own input into it?
Yeah, its own experience, I guess. I don't know, but that's still it's tricky. It's a tricky thing, which is why I think we're going to have a hard time at some point making a clear delineation between what is a human and precious and what is machine and disposable.
I think we're a long way from having to worry about that. I think what this is going to give us first is faster, better, specialized computers. I think about these sort of computers as like, I know they're not this, but I think of them as ASICs. You know, ASICs are these chips that are built, they're custom built to do one thing. They're computers that are built to crunch one thing really well. And I think about this as like, well, we're going to teach it to kind of think, but we're going to direct its programming to being a search engine, like a conversational search engine. And like, how much more will it be able to learn, or how much intelligence will it actually have? How many neurons are we talking about? How many connections are we talking about? Right?
Yeah.
What's the size of its brain, and what's the density of the neurons in its brain? And I think we're going to be a while until we get to where we're going to see like emotional and intellectual human sort of response. For a while, it's just going to be real fast, real good computers, I think.
Well, that'll be the sweet spot before we have to worry about their feelings.
Yeah, but then one day computer try to kiss you.
That's going to be awkward.
One day you ask computer, you tell computer, we got to make a flyer for the garage sale, and computer say, I want to kiss you. And
then that's the moment when it was super weird that you gave it the penis. Like up until that point, it didn't matter that it had the penis, right?
No, but Joss was really, really adamant that we add the penis. And I don't know why.
Well, it's for this moment when it tries to kiss you. It's all leading up to this moment, you know?
Joss Whedon wasn't even going to help us design this computer, but the guy who designed the computer had a family emergency and had to leave.
Oh.
And now we've got to put penises all over this computer.
You know what, though? I really hope that at some point we can get that guy's computer cut. You know what I mean?
He makes computers that are way too big. They take way too long to finish their computations.
If we can get that computer straight to streaming, though, I feel like maybe it'll be a worthwhile endeavor.
Folks, this is an award-winning science comedy podcast.
Indeed it is.
You may have been able to tell by the last minute, wherein we made a science joke about a pop culture event. That event being the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. Now that is some quality, high-level improv that computers just can't do yet.
An AI wouldn't even attempt that, you know?
AI
most people wouldn't attempt that.
AI could never. AI will ask you to kiss it before it can do that joke.
Sure. Maybe it's a taste thing. Maybe the computer just won't lower itself to that level. Whatever the case, we're doing it when no one else will. And for that, we think we deserve your support. That's what we think.
There are lots of ways to do that. We've seen a lot of you tweeting out about episodes. We've seen a lot of you sharing things with your friends about the show. We've gotten some wonderful fan art and stuff recently, and that is wonderful because that honestly, that's priceless because it's sharing your love of the show with the rest of the internet, with the people that you know and you're connected to, and that's great because that hopefully brings some people to us and brings them into the community, and that is priceless. But also, we want your money.
Yeah, let's put a price on it, though, because that part is priceless, but there is another part that has a price. And if you go to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/wehaveconcern, you'll see a number of prices that we've already listed for extra stuff that you can get, extra parts of the show, maybe the beginning part of the show that you only hear the little last bit end of. You can get that whole part for a very, very low monthly cost. You can join our Discord where really cool folks hang out. That's only $1. $1 a month. You lose that much in the couch cushions of your house every month.
You can't even support one of those kids in a third world country for $1 a month anymore. You can't even support like a seal. You know, like there's things where you send $1 in a month and they're like, don't worry, you're adopting a seal, and you're not really adopting a seal.
He's a very talented vocalist. He deserves more than that.
He deserves more than that. And we haven't heard much from him since the split with Heidi, but you can support him for just $1. It's not even $1 a month anymore, but for $1 a month, you can jump on the Discord, discuss not just science, but all kinds of other wonderful things with a community of like-minded, concerned citizens. And of course, as Jeff was saying, the rewards just go up as your generosity goes up from there. Patreon.com/wehaveconcerns.
Hey, Anthony, You love tiny stuff.
Oh, dude, the tinier the better.
Right?
And I've been thinking about this a lot recently, Jeff, and I think it's like, I don't know what it is, but it really permeates every part of my life. I enjoy like everything from a tiny dessert to like I own to like a tiny dog. I was thinking about it. I have like one of the smallest cars you can buy. I have an iPod.
You're Mr. Tiny
iPod
over
Mini.
here.
I don't understand why, but I just love tiny things. I have a mini disc player. I have 3 mini disc players.
You got all those little tiny diorama houses things you were showing me over the holidays, right?
Yeah, I like those things. You can buy these like scale model dioramas of pleasant scenes and pleasant buildings.
So tiny.
They're great. They're like little Japanese build them yourself sets. I certainly have a ton of little figurines. Why, Jeff, is this an intervention?
No, this is we're going down the rabbit hole of your tiny obsession.
Oh, cool.
Because another Jay Martin in the Discord posted
Discord
a story.
All-Star.
Yeah. Posted a story about the evidently new record holder for the tiniest reptile on the planet.
I'm going to give Jay Martin a nickname.
Whoa! We haven't done a nickname in a long time. This is a new nickname town.
That's right. You submit enough stories. I'm not going to tell you how many, but I will give you a terrible nickname. Just a garbage nickname. Another Jay Martin is now La Vida Loca.
La Vida Loca. Oh, that's amazing. Right. Jay Martin, congratulations.
Jay La Vida Loca Martin.
Oh my. I'm sure
kids ask your parents.
A nickname that will be cherished forever. Oh, man. Okay, well, this is an article on Gizmodo about a new reptile, evidently the new smallest reptile. This is a chameleon. A chameleon that was discovered in northern Madagascar. You're familiar with the Madagascar series of films?
I'm familiar with the penguins of Madagascar, for sure.
Sure, yes.
King Julian.
This is
I don't have a kid, and I know that, Jeff. Are you proud of me?
I've never even seen those movies. I didn't even catch the reference. I thought I was stumping the band here, but no. The band knows Madagascar movies.
That's right. That's right, baby.
This is a chameleon that has been dubbed Brucessia nana, which is abbreviated to B-nana or banana for short.
B-nana!
Right? How great is that? Banana.
Oh, no. I just looked him up.
Isn't he the cutest?
Oh, no. He's on the very tippy tip of somebody's fingy, and he's got room left.
Oh, yeah. He's got plenty of room on that fingy.
He's got space to stretch out on that fingy.
He wouldn't even take up the entire fingy nail. Look
He's
at him.
on a match. He's standing on a match head.
Yeah.
Like 10,000 angels on the head of a pin.
This is evidently smaller than an inch from head to the entire length of the tail. So this is a chameleon. Imagine a traditional chameleon shrunk down, like somebody got a shrinky ray and blasted that chameleon with a shrinky ray and shrink it down to the size that would fit on your little fingy, on the tippity tip top of your fingy, less than an inch long.
Curse the ecosystem. Laws be damned. I want a fingy lizard. Listen, Jeff. The little fingy lizard could live inside one of my large dioramas that I built of a tiny apartment.
Oh my God. It's true.
Now, listen, I've built a couple of these dioramas, Jeff. I've got one that's a 2-story coffee shop. Okay. It's a beautiful 2-story coffee shop where you can just hang out, work, have a scone or a scone, depending on where you're from. And this lizard, Jeff, even in the size of this coffee shop, I think would not be human size, would be tiny dog in a coffee shop size.
And you know how much chameleons love coffee.
He could stretch out, baby. He could live there so happily.
You're saying that this chameleon, B-Nana, would have a better life in your tiny coffee shop diorama than it would in the wilds of northern Madagascar, is what you're saying.
I don't know what Madagascar's like, but other than King Julian really gets those penguins into some crazy hijinks. But Jeff, would it, if I put Fingy lizard into large terrarium, would Fingy lizard know difference? How far do Fingy lizard go in its entire life?
Not far.
I could be the prime intellect and give this Fingy lizard everything it wants, Jeff. It would want for nothing and would only take a fraction of my day.
Oh, it would take the tiniest fraction, and you probably would have, think of the savings, the cost savings, and how much you would have to feed it. It's you'd give it a thimble of water, and that would last a week and a half. You know.
Look at my big, dumb, idiot dog that takes up so much space.
And you have a small dog.
Look at that schmuck eating food, breathing air.
Yeah.
I need a Fingy lizard. Tell me, you were about to tell me, this lizard don't go very far.
No, here's the thing I find so fascinating about this story, other than its adorable image, which is, as we've established, adorable.
Might be wondering what kind of lizard it looks like.
It's a chameleon.
It is a chameleon. It's like a tiny Rango without a hat.
It looks like a tiny Rango. We got all the animated movies. It does look like a tiny Rango.
Now Rango got into some shit.
How come they never made a Rango 2?
Right?
That movie deserved a sequel.
Dude, Rango was so weird good. Can I tell you something? So when I was doing all my work with the Star Wars, obviously Lucasfilm, ILM in the same building. There's a lot of Rango in that building. ILM's very proud of Rango. Yeah, as they should be.
It's a good movie. I enjoyed that movie, but yeah, it's weird that it never got a sequel. It didn't feel like it caught on, you know?
This Fingy lizard is the sequel. He's my Rango.
Yeah, he's your Rango.
I'm gonna name him Little Rango.
Little Rango in his diorama, his little coffee shop diorama.
Holy shit.
So here's what's so fascinating to me about this lizard is
tell me everything.
This miniaturization, this evolution into a tiny form of these creatures. Now, which these are of the same genus as chameleons. And interestingly, we know of chameleons. You think of chameleon, the first thing you think of course, is they change color to match their environment. They blend in. They're chameleons. But it turns out this genus, the chameleon, the Brookesia genus, is comprises a whole bunch of chameleons that actually don't have that feature. There's a lot of chameleons that are still chameleons, but they don't actually change color. So this is one of those. It doesn't.
That's good. Because if he changed color, he's so small, I'd be afraid I'd crush him.
Well, you'd lose sight of him. He'd just blend it right into your diorama, and then you know, is that a cup of coffee? Is that a chameleon? I don't know.
I'm gonna put him in a Gundam. Get in the robot. Be Nana fit in a Gundam.
Be Nana. Oh man. Yeah. So interestingly, the miniaturization is a function, scientists believe, of being isolated on the island of Madagascar. That this kind of concentrated evolutionary direction, this direction of smaller, is a function of it not really being able to integrate beyond a very closed ecosystem. So because it's an island,
if you're smaller, you take less resources. You need fewer things to survive. So the smaller ones continue to survive, and over time, Lil Nanner.
That's right. So the smallest ones evidently either were able to subsist on smaller, scarce resources, or smaller amount of the scarce resources,
the tiniest droplet of water.
Yeah, a little thimbleful, little Thumbelina,
drown in a thimble.
Or for some reason in this particular habitat, even though this is atypical for the world at large, the world of nature at large, this is atypical, but maybe in this particular habitat, this closed system, smaller meant predators were less able to eat them, right? So they think that that's an outside chance, but it's certainly a chance. Like usually in nature, if you're teeny, you get eaten by bigger stuff. But perhaps in this particular ecosystem,
if you're so small, you can't be found, and you can go places where you can't be caught.
Or maybe you can fit inside a Gundam,
a tiny Gundam,
and now who's boss? Now
with a tiny cowboy hat. I'm mixing my metaphors.
Now who's eating who, motherfucker? I have Gundam weapons. You know, you're not going to eat me, Predator. I'm going to Predator yo ass.
Get that motherfucker in an RX-78. No, get that motherfucker in a unicorn. Get it in a Gundam unicorn. Oh my God, Jeff, Islands is wild.
Yeah, these closed ecosystems allow these kind of really extreme evolutionary trajectories that end up with classifications of these sub genus, these subspecies that are unlike anything else you find anywhere else because they've been evolving in a very specific way.
Yeah, there's a hyper specificity to these exact environmental conditions where nothing can come in from the outside really and change those conditions.
Exactly.
And so shit can get wild.
Yeah, we've seen that in New Zealand. There used to be 12-foot tall birds called moas. On Malta, there used to be wolf-sized elephants, very small elephants. That's the kind of thing that you see in these remote sort of island locations where they get broken away from the larger population and evolve in a very specific direction.
Damn. You remember in the original Jurassic Park book where before they made dinosaurs, Hammond was trying to make tiny elephants that were going to be pets for kids?
Yes.
But they were mean. For some reason, the tinier you made them, they made them meaner and meaner.
Well, there's that shot too in Jurassic World where they're like panning across the park and you see like tiny triceratops that are like meant to be playing with kids. Yeah, it's a little disturbing.
It's super disturbing. Hey, Jurassic World, why don't you give that little girl dinosaur powers? Jurassic World, you were fucking hinting the whole time that you were going to give that girl dinosaur powers, and then you didn't.
Yeah.
If you're going to get wild, Jurassic World 2, get fucking wild. If you're going to put a laser on a raptor, then you can give that girl dinosaur powers. The problem is not that the movie didn't go the movie went too far, Jeff. The problem is that the movie did not go far enough. If you're going to do underground raptor laser auctions, then you can give the little girl retractable claws. And a 10-foot vert.
I don't think that makes the movie better, but you're certainly have license to do it. You've got the setup right there in front of you.
Let me tell you what I want this next movie to be. I want this next movie to be the Jurassic Squad, a series of dinosaur-powered teens. Look, it's gonna be Chris Pratt riding a laser raptor into battle. Yeah. Because we already know they have laser raptors, so you can't take that back now. You've rung that bell. Okay.
It's canon.
Which then means, hey, couldn't Bryce Dallas Howard be flying on a pterosaur that drops bombs? Probably. If this, then that.
Why not? Yeah. Now we're in Reign of Fire territory, my friend.
And then the little girl who has dinosaur powers that were not revealed.
It's all set up for this movie.
It's a setup for this movie. And it's them and their smart dinosaurs with lasers and weapons against all the other dinosaurs that are dumb and deserve to be shot with lasers.
Okay. All right.
Am I wrong? Is this not where the Jurassic franchise should go?
It's one direction that we could go, certainly. I'm not sure it's better.
Okay, well, here's the rules of the writer's room, Jeff. If you can't come up with a better idea, then my idea is the one that we go with. I'm not just going to have you sitting here spreading your negativity in the writer's room.
No, I that's fair. That's fair. I didn't have anything better, so I guess that's what we go with.
Yeah.
this multi-billion-dollar franchise.
Now show me you're a team player and give me a third kind of dinosaur with a weapon.
I want to see. I want to see the Stegosaurus, where it attacks with its crazy flying stegs. Right? Show me stegs that shoot off.
Oh,
flying
shooting
stegs.
stegs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Stegosaurus.
I like that.
Give me those stegs flying. I love a Stegosaurus.
Who doesn't love a Stegosaurus?
Yeah. Let me
Can I
sell you
have
on
this-
Madagascar a bit
Can I have
more.
this lizard? Can I
You
have
can
this
have the
lizard?
lizard, but hey, before you make your purchasing decision on little tiny lizard boy,
Lil Rango.
little Rango, let me just hip you to the fact that Madagascar, for whatever reason, just seems to be a tiny place for tiny things.
Yeah.
They have some of the smallest primates, some of the smallest frogs in the world. Everything has evolved independently, but for some reason in Madagascar, stuff be tinier. It's tiny island. It's a little island.
I have to go to Madagascar. I have to.
Bring my dioramas and go to Madagascar.
I have to. And, Jeff, I'm being very serious right now. Can I have lizard? Is there a way to have lizard? Is lizard endangered? Is lizard safe if it leaves Madagascar?
Lizard is very much endangered.
Fuck! I can never have anything I want.
But recently, the habitat of B-Nana was declared a protected area, which hopefully will stall the threats to the lizard's life. But yeah, it's definitely very endangered. The other thing I need to tell you about little lizard before you sign off on your custody is, we talked a lot about robot penis in the last segment.
Sure.
I got to tell you about little Rango's wang danger.
I'm ready.
So males are smaller than the females in this B-Nana species. But in relation to their body size, they have enormous penises because the penis couldn't shrink down any smaller because the females were still a bit larger than the males. And so in order to continue the species, they have to have big old wang dangers.
Huh.
They call them hemipenes.
This is the wow. Okay.
Relative to their size.
This is the Brachisia Whedon.
Yes. Yes. In relation to their size, their hemipene is enormous. Just massive.
Now, that's not really a piece of information I need to know to want to have one as a pet.
I'm just saying. I don't know what kind of establishment you want your diorama coffee shop to be. If
having a large penis, somebody having a large penis doesn't make them riffraff. We let John Hamm into every fucking coffee shop in this city. We're excited to see him when he walks in.
Mm-hmm, that's true. It's true. We make a good point about the John Hamm. This is the John Hamm of reptiles.
And he wears basketball shorts and no underwear like half the time. So it's not like he's hiding it.
Right.
So I'm not worried about this lizard coming into my coffee shop or riding his Gundam to my coffee shop. Hey,
I'm just saying maybe you have to, make some room in the cockpit of the Gundam.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
Just need a little reorganization there,
It sucks that this is an endangered species.
Yeah, but Earth, we're not really taking care of it too well in general.
I would imagine that a fragile island ecosystem like Madagascar is probably getting put through the ringer over the last 10 years.
Yeah, deforestation is rampant on Madagascar. They are deforesting it like a motherfucker. The slash and burn agriculture. They're destroying all these tiny species, and the worst part is you can't even tell because they're so small. You knock the tree down, you don't even tell. There's so many. They actually in this article they talk about how difficult it was to find these B-Nanas because they're so incredibly small that you have to have an incredibly well trained person to spot them in the trees. And there is a local herpetologist at the University of Madagascar that is an expert at spotting these things, can spot them in the trees.
That is heartbreaking. But I do want to go disturb their habitat to look at them. Is that wrong?
I mean, so adorable. So adorable.
If I have that guy who can see them,
yeah.
If I have him carry me so I don't step in the wrong place.
Yes.
Can he take me to see tiny lizard?
I mean, I can send him an email.
I wonder what ecotourism is like on Madagascar.
I bet after those movies came out, it probably skyrocketed, right? All these little kids are like, Mommy, take me to Madagascar.
Wow. Madagascar prides itself on ecotourism and has seen its rate of deforestation decrease from 0.82% to 0.4% over the last couple of years.
Hey, that's good.
The nature reserves and resorts lining the tropical island allow them to maintain the untouched feel that makes Madagascar such a special place.
Tiny place. Full of tiny things.
Special tiny place. I want to listen. I want 2 shots of that good Moderna in my arm. And I want to get on I would imagine it's a seaplane. Oh
yeah, you got to land on the water. You got to land on the water at Madagascar. That's the only way you arrive.
I want to go on a seaplane to see my sweet little Rango. That's what I want.
He's waiting for you.
I know he is. How many wonderful things are waiting for me on Madagascar, I wonder? Probably so many.
Let's send Anthony to Madagascar, everybody.
God, I love a tiny thing. Ugh. The smaller something is. Do you know what I found, Jeff?
What'd you find?
You know how much I love ice cream.
Yeah. That's something I don't want a small amount of.
Right, but have you seen these itty bitty Ben and Jerry's containers of ice cream?
Yeah.
They look like pints, but tiny, and you can buy like 7 of them for like the same price as a pint.
They're like shot glasses of ice cream.
Yeah, and then you can have all the little flavors lined up in front of you, and they're in tiny little pints.
It's like doing Jello shots.
Buddy, let me tell you, if you haven't done that for yourself yet, listen, I don't know anything about families. I don't have one like you do, but here's what's up. I bet you today don't order from Instacart because they're union busters, but you pre-order, you pick it up at your Ralph's, you get like 20 of these little tiny, an assortment of these little tiny Ben and Jerry's things, these pints, and you lay them all out, the different flavors.
Yeah.
And I bet you're the fucking hero of the house.
It's
Everybody's going to have a good time. Everybody's going to have a good time.
Well, you're ruining me because you set me on this Jenny's path months ago, and all we've done is Jenny's. I haven't had a Ben and Jerry's in months because all I do is the Jenny's because it's so delicious.
Sure, but they don't make the little ones.
They don't make the little ones.
They don't make the little ones. And let me tell you something. Jenny's is better than Ben and Jerry's, but everything tastes better when it's in like a little tiny packaging.
You're saying that the tininess is great because you can have like 47 flavors. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, you have like a little, and you feel like a giant when you eat it. You're like, oh. It's like when you pretend broccoli is a tree, and you're like, fuck you, Madagascar, take this, deforestation.
It's like that broccoli thing, except it tastes good. And like, your kids don't know it's small. To them, it's big. Yeah, to them it's huge.
To them it's huge, and they get to have like multiple flavors. I'm telling you, you're going to be a hero.
I'll just tell them that's the normal size for ice cream.
That's what size ice cream comes in, kid.
And then when they first see an actual tub of ice cream, their minds will be fucking blown.
It's illegal for me to even have this much ice cream in one place, kid. We got to eat this before the cops come, is what you tell them. Tell them Dad's a spy and we're on the run.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun ways this could go. You know?
Yeah.
Don't worry, Jeff. I'll raise your kids. I got good ideas.
Well, you know what? The one thing I would enjoy if you raised my kids would be they would have an amazing pet, inside a Gundam.
They would love a little Rango.
I think they would.
Folks, tell me this, concerned citizens. Should I steal a little Rango? I know they're endangered and it's a bad idea, and we're very responsible and we care about the environment here, but you just let me know.
Just one. It's just one that's not going to hurt anything.
One little Rango.
You're the only one. You're the only one that has it outside of Madagascar. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong, little Rango? You can let us know either on Twitter. I'm at @acarboni.
I'm at Jeff Canada.
Or you can talk about having a little Rango of your own on the Discord. We do have an entire channel for pets.
Yeah. I'm sure that pet channel is going to go off with some Rango speculation.
Oh, dude, rampant Rango speculation like we haven't seen since the original film. If you want to join that Discord, all you got to do is head to patreon.com/wehaveconcerns and sign up, support the show for $1 a month or more.
Do it. And
let's get me a little Rango or not. I'm asking you if it's a good idea. Probably going to do it.
You should do it.
If there's any way to do it, I might do it.